Some walls are pretty obvious. They're made of concrete and steel. But others? They're invisible. They're built from secrets, expectations, and silence. Today, we're diving into the story of two best friends whose lives get completely turned upside down when they crash into both kinds of walls. It forces them to face who they are and what they really believe. So let's get into it and uncover the truths hidden behind these walls.
So meet Hashem and Alex. Over on the left, you've got Hashem in his quiet, orderly room saying his morning prayer. His world is all about faith, tradition, and discipline. Then on the right, there's Alex. His kitchen's a mess, he's grabbing some cereal and his favorite book. His world is more like a daily scramble, just trying to survive and find some meaning in the pages of a novel. Two friends, right? But living in two totally different realities.
Okay, so first, let's unpack the unique pressures that are shaping each of these guys. Because their friendship, well, it exists right at the intersection of two very different kinds of struggle. Hashem is basically the pride of his family. He's got an Ivy League school lined up and everything. But just look at this quote. Every time someone praises him, it feels like a spotlight shining on this massive secret he's terrified of anyone finding out. He's gay. And in his world, that truth feels like this huge sin that separates him not just from his family, but from his faith, from his entire identity. I mean, the pressure to be the perfect son is absolutely crushing him. Now let's flip over to Alex. His reality isn't about hiding some deep secret. It's about surviving what's right out there in the open. The guy's working 3 jobs, he's taking care of his dad who's just out of rehab, and he's basically clinging to words for any kind of stability, whether it's from a novel or the Serenity Prayer he's got taped to his fridge. His life is just a constant grinding battle. So here's the key takeaway when you put it all together. You've got 2 kinds of pressure. Hashem is facing this intense internal conflict, the pressure to conform to a life that just isn't his. And then there's Alex, facing this relentless external one, the pressure to just, survive another day. And these parallel struggles are about to bring both of them to a serious breaking point. All right, let's start with Hashem. His internal war is about to become very, very real. This is where his family's plans for his future collide head-on with the secret he's been hiding his whole life. And boom, this is the moment everything changes. At the mosque, his mother basically arranges his marriage. She makes a deal with a community leader for Hashem to meet his niece. The walls are just closing in. I mean, the quote says it all. He was trapped. All of a sudden, his secret isn't just this private sin he feels anymore. It's a public lie he's being forced to live. It's a scandal that could shame his family for generations. Now, to really understand the weight of Hashem's crisis, we kind of have to take a step back. The condemnation he's so afraid of isn't just a personal thing. It's rooted in this really complex and often misunderstood history. So let's just briefly explore that relationship between Islam and homosexuality. What's really interesting here is that this history has shifted a lot. As you can see on this timeline, if you go back to pre-modern eras, there was actually a widespread practical tolerance. But then, in the 19th century, things really started to change, thanks to colonial influence and the rise of fundamentalism. And that's led us to the modern era, where some movements frame homosexuality not as part of a complex history, but as some kind of decadent Western import. This context is just so crucial for understanding the pressure Hashem feels. And this brings us right back to Hashem sitting in his mosque. He's not hearing about historical tolerance or any of that nuance. Nope, he is hearing this sermon, a direct, absolute condemnation. The imam's words just erase any possibility of him belonging. It reinforces this idea that his identity and his faith can't possibly exist together. He's totally and completely alone. All right, let's switch gears to Alex and see how his crisis starts to build. His breaking point doesn't come from a secret. It comes from being forced to look at a truth he'd much rather not see. A brutal, graphic confrontation with suffering that he just can't ignore. So he's at his friend Miriam's house, and she shows him a video of an industrial piggery, and the shock is immediate. It's visceral. For him, this isn't some abstract problem. It is, and I'm quoting here, a screaming mass of animal flesh. A scene straight out of hell where these wretched creatures, who have never even felt grass, are suffering in their own filth. The sight just hits him on a gut level. He is physically horrified. But his first reaction isn't empathy, it's actually anger. Look at this quote. He calls it animal rights porn, and he just lashes out. So why does he do that? Well, because, like he says, he already had enough on his plate. Confronting this massive systemic cruelty is just overwhelming. It's way easier to get angry at the zealot showing him the video than it is to actually process the horror of what he's just seen.
And this is where the conflict gets even deeper. To deflect, Alex attacks the messenger. He questions Mariam's sincerity by using her own religion against her, asking if her faith doesn't define pigs as dirty. He's basically asking, how can you care about this animal if your religion says it's unclean? It's a really sharp, painful turn in the conversation, mixing personal ethics with religious dogma.
And yet, through all that anger and deflection, Alex arrives at this incredibly powerful insight. This right here is the crucial point. He realizes the entire system of industrial farming depends on being hidden. It can only exist because its brutality is kept behind walls, out of sight and completely out of mind. If people saw what he just saw, the system would collapse.
And that idea of walls that hide an unbearable truth, well, that's what connects these two friends' stories. It's the theme that brings their two very, very different worlds together.
This is really the heart of it all. The concrete walls of the piggery hide the physical suffering of animals, which allows society to keep doing something many would find totally abhorrent if they actually saw it. And in the exact same way, the invisible walls of religious dogma, family expectations, and silence hide Hashem's emotional truth, forcing him into a life that is causing him immense suffering.
And this brings us to a final question for you. The story of Hashem and Alex is about the walls in their lives, sure, but it kind of forces us to look at our own. What systems or beliefs or discomforts in our society only continue to exist because they are hidden behind walls, both the literal ones and the metaphorical ones?
If this explainer gave you something to think about, please do us a favor and hit that like and follow to support our show. We would genuinely love to hear your perspective on our final question down in the comments below. And for more on these characters, you can explore the book this story is from, Catch You If You Fall, which is the first in the Rise Up trilogy. Thanks so much for watching.